Welcome back. Today I have two reviews to share with y'all. First is the Arcform Sabre. This was designed by Dustin Snyder, and it's a medium-sized EDC knife coming in at around 7.25 overall length, and it has around a 3.22 inch Warncliffe blade with a satin finish on it. Looks nice. You got a very aggressive bulky tip there. No jimping, but I didn't find it needed because you got a nice flat spot to rest your thumb. Nice top swedge that thins out that tip. You have a blade hole for deployment we'll talk about later, and you have a saber ground, flat ground knife that comes down to around 20 thousandths behind the edge. Let's see how it performs. The knife came pretty sharp out of box. It was slicing fairly effortlessly through the cardboard. And being that it doesn't have much belly, it didn't feel like it was going to slide out of the cut any. I tried to do a little bit longer cuts, and it was cutting good so far. I think this blade shape is going to be excellent for about everything. We'll find out later, but look, as you can see, I'm trying to do the longer runs of cardboard just to test out that if it's going to slide out or not. But it has a low tip underneath that center line of the pivot, so it should be good for just about everything, depending on if it's lacking enough belly. Now we move to the piece of birch to test the ergos and see how that edge wants to bite. And this is a very knotty, twisty piece of wood. That's all I have. So I started putting a lot of force into it just to test those ergos right away, and they were really good. I was kind of worried that the tapered end back into the scales would be uncomfortable, and they were excellent. No hot spots all the way until I got to like very end where I'm really bearing down very hard. The pocket clip was starting to give me a minor hot spot, especially in the middle of that pocket clip where the fat of my hand was kind of falling in there. But I think it performed well, able to get a lot of force into the cut. Now, being we had that low tip, these drag cuts with that needle-like tip right there are going to be amazing for the drag cuts. And we're going to have to see if the knife has enough belly to do the higher cutting, like this tubing. Now, the second one right there, I noticed that the tip was kind of starting to hit that cutting board before I got all the way through. Once I got to this piece, it really came in contact with it hard. So I was trying to be mindful of that tip because, I didn't want it to bury into the cutting board and snap it off. That's the only trade-off when you're lacking belly. This one has a very gradual belly. So I'm still able to do like this type of stuff and get enough of the edge on it. It still has good bite at this point, and so far so good. I'm happy. So we'll see how much toothiness it has once we get back to the 1/2 inch sisal rope. Started off good. It felt like it had decent bite. It wasn't the most bite I've ever had with a pocket knife, but it was definitely good enough. In the pinch grip, it was nice and comfortable. The micarta was grippy. It kept my hands from sliding. And yeah, I was doing mainly push cuts, as you can see here. And I was actually pretty surprised. It didn't feel like it had a ton of bite to it whenever I felt the edge, but I was wrong. We end up getting through 50 cuts, and I am more than satisfied with that number. I definitely could have done more, but that's where I cut the piece and that's where I ran out. So definitely happy. Good enough belly. I like this type of blade shape. Fun to use. All right, now let's talk about the deployment and the action. This is a thumb hole knife, excellent reverse flicker. You can thumb flick it and you can slow roll it. Now, it is a little bit slick because I got a chamfer right there. It's not terrible, and the detent is pretty stout on this knife. Just listen. It's a pretty positive detent, especially for a thumb hole knife. It has broken in nicely. It is nice and smooth, riding on ceramic ball bearings with the ceramic detent. Now let's take a look at the handle area. You have a flat pivot on this side. It does sit a little bit proud of the scales, no big deal. Torx T8 for the pivot. Unfortunately, you have Torx T6 for the body screws. This particular one has green canvas micarta. There are other variations. They are nice and contoured, very comfortable, no sharp spots where you don't want them to be. This one has a Ultim back spacer. I don't really mind it there, just a nice little contrast. And unfortunately, this is only tip up right hand carry. But they did inset it into the micarta, and the screws are countersunk as well. So it goes in and out of the pocket nicely and pretty much disappears. That's about all you have sticking out. The pocket clip is titanium, as you can see. It's not magnetic. Now let's check out the inside. You do have inset stainless steel liners, and they have been skeletonized on the show side of the scale. Weight first in grams at 86.4 grams or 3.051 ounces. Outstanding. Now let's take a look at the lockup. It's sitting at around, I'd say 40%, 30-40% or so. Absolutely a bank vault. No movement up or down, left or right on my knife at all. The access to the lock bar is pretty good. The only thing I noticed is this right here, the chamfer is almost high satin, almost polished finish on it. So it is a little slick, but I can get my thumb in there, still rather easily because of this cutout. So I wouldn't really call it an issue. Size comparison with the Ontario Rat Model 1 and 2. It's very similar to Rat 2. Next, we have the Spyderco Para 3 and the Arcform Slimfoot Auto. It's very similar in overall length to both of these. And last, we have the Giant Mouse Ace Atelier and the Ace Biblio. Now, for nitpicks and complaints, I wish they would have given us some sharpening choil. However, after this video, I'm gonna add my own because there's no stop pin to worry about there. Like I said, the detent is a little bit on the stout side for a thumb hold knife, or it might just be mine. This is a little slick, but not terrible. And like I said, whenever I really bore down into the wood, I could feel the middle part of this clip and the top side of this clip because of the way it tapers down right here. But other than that, I love the size, I love the look, I love the blade shape. It carries well, comfortable, and it has really nice action. So overall, I enjoyed the knife, and I could recommend this one if those aren't deal breakers for you. This one comes in at $160, and I think it's definitely worth that. Next up, we have the Ohlone Knives Goat XL. This one's exciting. I reviewed the smaller version and I liked it, but it was just a little too small. The OEM for this one is Riot Knives. They do some of the best work in the business. This one has a beautiful drop point blade with a very nice reflective stonewash finish there. You have a nice needle light point for pokey stuff there. Dual thumb studs on this one. Excellent sharpening choil. Give you tons of life to sharpen before it starts to widen up back here. No jimping, but I didn't find it needed because you got a nice flat spine to rest your thumb. This is a nice full-size EDC knife at 8¼ inches, and it has a 3.56-inch blade, a Bowler M390 steel. With that full flat grind that comes down to around 17 thousandths behind the edge, let's see how it performs. This knife came with an amazing edge out of box, even better than the last knife, and it felt like it had not a lot of aggression to it. And being that this has a higher tip on it, I did try to do the longest cut I could with this cardboard, and it did fine. If you had to do very long cuts, you could possibly slide out of the cut. Just depends on how much arc you put in your wrist whenever you start to cut. It's just a natural motion. But passing through the cardboard very fast, and it didn't even feel like it was there. So far, excellent job. Hopefully it keeps it up through till the end. Now we're going to test the ergos on this piece of birch. See how well that edge wants to bite, and right away I started trying to muscle in a lot of force into this piece of wood, and I was able to get it in there. I mean, I was really bearing down, and since this has contour titanium scales, it was rather comfortable. This is probably the 5th knife I tested this day, so I did make a few adjustments with my hands just because they were worn out, but I had no hot spots to speak of, and I was able, like I said, to get a lot of force into it. Then we get to the 1/2 inch twisted sisal rope, and it's got a lot of aggression to that edge. I'm putting very minimal force into the cut. and it is just gliding through the rope like it's not there at all. Perfect belly to the drop point to do cuts on the flat cutting surface. It just makes my job a lot easier. Whenever you do have, you know, some belly up there to the tip, you can just kind of push straight down into what you're cutting or do that sawing motion. I didn't have as long of a row of rope here, but we did get through right at 40 cuts, and I definitely could have done more. Now, being that we have the higher tip, I'm using that belly to do the drag cut, which is fine. You can kind of use more of the edge, so you're not just dulling down one portion. And I'm kind of surprised on how sharp the knife still feels. It's passing through all the material very fast, and I was very impressed with the edge it still felt like it had. Nothing really gave it any problems. I'm just making sure that I was kind of gun shy after burying the tip from the last knife into the cutting board. But it has a high tip, so nothing to worry about here. And it blasts through the denim like it wasn't there at all. Excellent job. Very happy with the way this one performed. Now let's take a look at the action. This is riding on phosphor bronze washers. It's got a very snappy action. It's broken in nicely, and it's gotten very smooth. It's not a complete fall shut knife when I pull this. Oh yeah, it is. It wasn't earlier, but now it's broken in very nicely, and there's absolutely no play any direction on my knife. They did an outstanding job. The thumb studs are nice and comfortable. You got a little bit of texture there, so they're not slick. Now let's take a look at the handle area. They did a wonderful job here. You have contour titanium scales with an inlay on them. This is green canvas micarta. They have several different options. You have a Torx T8 for the pivot and on the body screws. Outstanding job, as well as on the pocket clip. This is a 3D mill titanium pocket clip. Good retention, and it's pretty close to being deep carry. That's all you have sticking out of the pocket. But once again, you only have tip up right hand carry, so they kind of missed out on that part of the market. You have a geared micarta backspacer that matches the inlay. It sits flush, so you don't really feel that. This is a fairly beefy knife because you have the thick slabs of titanium, the thick slab of steel there, and you also have, it's hard to see, you have a partial inset stainless steel liner in there, adding some extra weight as well. I wish they would have kind of stopped it right there, but let's see what it weighs. First in grams, 131.4 grams or 4.63 ounces. So not terrible. It is kind of butt heavy. The balance point is way back here. So not the end of the world. It carried just fine. Like I said, this is a crossbar lock. You do have texture there, so it's not slippery, and it does take some time to break in. Mine is rock solid. Outstanding job. Especially, I think this is the first Riot knife I've had with a crossbar lock, so they did a wonderful job. Now for a size comparison with the Ontario Rat Model 1 and 2, Hogue Ritter RSK and Mini RSK, and last Spyderco PM2 and Manix 2. It's identical to the length of the PM2. Now for my nitpicks complaints, the only thing I really have is it's not tipped for lefties, and I wish they would have kept that stainless steel liner to about right here, just to bring down the weight, balance out the knife a little bit more. However, I absolutely love the knife. It's very well made, comfortable. The action's broken in nicely, and if you're looking for a nice tough knife that looks good, slices good, then this is an excellent option. If you're interested in either one of these, I will have links down in the description. And if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. Hope everybody's having an absolute amazing Saturday. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.